Maverick 100.9, Aggie Lands Country Alternative. It's Corliss. I get to make a new friend today. His name is Kerry Freeman. Hi, Kerry.
Hey, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Where are you from?
From or where do I live?
Ooh, both.
Well, I live right outside. I live outside Fort Worth. I was born in the Panhandle, Plain
Okay.
out west. My dad's a retired Baptist preacher, so kind of moved around younger. I lived all over West Texas and then settled. We kind of lived the last 10 years of my childhood in Central Texas, right outside Brownwood, a little town called Bangs, home of Coffee Anderson, if you know. So
Oh, yeah.
everybody's like, growing up in Bangs, they're like, oh, so Brownwood has Gordonwood, Brownwood football, and Underwoods. And I'm like, well, Bangs is right outside there. Now it's like, oh, that's where Coffee is from. Like, his mom was my teacher.
Oh, how cute. I
Our
recently saw him at an award show. He seemed like a real nice guy.
extremely nice. I mean, I always tell people that if you haven't met him, most musicians, stars, whatever, they have some level of charisma and personality. Well, he's got it just 10,000 times more than anyone I've ever.
Right?
Unbelievable.
I mean, it landed him a Netflix show, so makes sense.
Works his tail end off.
Yep. Well, let's talk about you working your tail end off. We've got a brand new single out called Funny How That Works, which I already kind of love it from the title. But explain this one to me a little bit before we take a listen.
So actually, my cousin, Russ Freeman, wrote that song. Um, and he plays in my band and we co-write together. So he wrote 4 of the songs on the record. So I just released a record too, and that was the first single. But yeah, he wrote that song. I can't remember when I first heard it, but I mean, I fell in love with it probably 3 or 4 years ago. I was like, man, that's a killer song. And then when I ended up doing this record, started last year, I was like, man, I really want to do that. And he was like, sure, do it. And then he, obviously that process of writing together or him not pitching me songs like you would think so, but that's how it came about. And I don't know when he wrote it, but it's probably 4 or 5 years ago. Like I said, the first time I heard it, I think, but I loved it. First time I heard it, and then I'm really happy with how it worked out in the studio. I think we did a really good job on it. But I also, the guys that played on my record are as A-list as it gets. So I mean, it would have been hard for me to screw up. It's like they're so good that it's like, the pressure. Now all you got to do is go sing and noodle around every now and then. So they all made it really easy for me. So I hope it worked out and translated onto tape.
Isn't that great, though? Like, nothing really gives you the confidence boost you need like studio musicians.
Well, confidence boost, or I'm going to burn my guitar and go mow lawns or something. Not that that's bad, but it was. And of course, I've always respected studio musicians, but my entire music career, I considered myself more live. I mean, I just like playing live. I like being in front of people. I like entertaining. I just enjoy that more than anything. And it's a totally different world. That doesn't mean you can't do both, but true A-list studio musicians there's such a different level than wonderful guys you'll see in bands out on the road. It is something to behold. Like, it really is.
And there's so many, especially country music lovers, like, we don't get to see the actual inside of country music. It's just delivered to us in its purest form in its final form. But I am lucky enough to have spent time in studios, and watching music get made is probably more magical than listening to music. I have to say.
I mean, that's what makes music so great. There's so many things, not to be funny about it, but there really is magic in so much of it. And part of the studio can be completely mind numbing. Like, I mean, it took me 9 months to record this record. It wasn't because it was 9 months in the studio. My producer lives in London. And so it was, okay, I'm in the States this block of time. So it was like we did it 3 days in October last year, then a week in April, and then a week at the end of January, then a week in April. Well, heck, all of a sudden you're at 9 months and it's like you've been in the studio 2.5 weeks. It shouldn't, it shouldn't. Everybody's like, what are you doing? Making the freaking Hotel California? It didn't take that long. I'm like, no, it's scheduling. I promise. But yeah, so there's within that, like one time my oldest daughter came for a few days because she loves Nashville. And, we cut the majority of the record, you would do live with the band and then I would sing the scratch and everything. And that's magic, watching, one or two takes and all of a sudden it comes together. But then, then you'll go and redo vocals that the scratch isn't great. Well, all that, it's fine, but it's not sexy. It's not cool. It's sitting on a couch going, gosh, my producer just beats me up. It was like, oh, do one more time. I'm like, dude, I've sang it 35 times. He's like, no, but I just like having it. And I'm like, all right. So it's like you all this stuff that people think is really cool. And it is.
It is.
Like you literally want to put your head through glass.
Well, I am glad that you put yourself through the hell just to give us this beautiful little song, Kerry.
And I really do hope you like it. Like I said, I really like it. I think that it's got a cool, I don't know, it's really cool. I really like it. And kind of fits the theme of the record. So
yeah. Well, we're going to talk more about that record coming up next. But first, we got to let you have this single. This is Kerry Freeman for the first time on Maverick 100.9. And funny how that works. Due to copyright, Brian Broadcasting is not licensed to air this single for you in podcast form, but you can now find it anywhere that you stream and download music. And today's interview continues now. That was Kerry Freeman, and funny how that works on Maverick 100.9. As Corliss and I am joined by Kerry. Now, you said that you did release your new album already. What is that called?
It's called It's Texas, which is one of the songs on there, too, that my cousin Russ wrote that I co-wrote with him. And, so I released, so again, and we maybe could talk about it later if you want to. I mean, the whole process of how it came about with the record and stuff. But, now normally it's like people will do a single or two, or do a single, release it, do another single, release it. And I didn't go into it with this plan of how to do it. It kind of came together organically. But I also was like, man, I've already got, I believe in making records. That's how it was done. It was like, you want something to give somebody. And I'm not a new artist in the sense of I've played professionally for 20, 30 years, played overseas forever. And so from a new artist in the standpoint of releasing content, I just had one single. It's like, oh, cool. This guy's got one song. So even if somebody loved it, there's nothing really there to get into. So
yeah.
No, just, and a lot of people do it the other way. But I was like, let's just release the record and I'll just then do singles. That's how it kind of used to be. And nobody really, I didn't get any bad negative feedback like, oh, no, that's not the way you do it now. So my goal is, I released this record in September. We just released that. Funny how that works. Probably another single in a couple of months. And then, so maybe 2 more this year off of the record, depending on how they do and, what the reception is. But the title track, It's Texas, is the song I think that will really be, I just think it has such a message that people can get. I don't know. It's very nostalgic kind of without sounding cheesy. So I think people in Texas will love it.
Nah, we always need nostalgia, man. I think it's what keeps us going forward, but I'm really excited to take a listen to it. So full library from Kerry Freeman that you can find right now. And I wanted to go back to the work you do with your cousin. So you said you two co-write together, you play in the band together. Is this a whole family ordeal, or is it just you and your cousin?
It used to be. So I started, like I said, my dad was a Baptist preacher. But I grew up like many people that grew up in church. I sang from the time I was probably 4 years old, singing in church. So my dad, before he got in the ministry, he grew up in Odessa back in the 50s. And then he was real good friends with Roy Orbison. And, oh, yeah. I
You
grew up.
just do that so casually.
Oh yeah. No, they were, and I mean that was the story growing up. Is like, oh yeah, Roy Orbison gave your dad. My grandmother always say gave him the flu. And when he came, I'm like, grandmother, you realize that was probably the most famous, one of the most famous musicians of all
I
time.
have tears in my eyes. You do not understand my fandom for Roy Orbison.
I think he's. I don't want to be negative towards some of the other 50. Because trust me, I know, and Buddy Holly, there's another story about Buddy Holly with the guy that produced my record, but I think Roy was he just sang better and different, and his songs were just more mature for what it was back then. It's like now you look back, and because he died young before kind of got to get the resurgence that other early rock and rollers got, he kind of gets lost in the shuffle
I
of how
agree.
he was. So, but anyway, so my dad was a rock and roller back in the day, and the other story with that played with some, and but then he, I guess, had the calling to be a preacher and go in the ministry, and so he quit. So anyway, I grew up around music, and I sang. I've got two sisters that sing, my brother that sings, and my brother and I played live forever. We've been in bands together. He married a exchange student, and moved to Denmark and lived there 20 years. So that's how I got into playing all those gigs over in Europe, because I had an agent, a U.S. agent, that I got divorced in 2005, my first marriage, and I was like, for 10 years, all I did was I basically only played over there. I did some stuff here, but it was so much easier because I had young kids. I could go, okay, I can do a month here and a month there, and they could book me. You know what I mean? It was like just fly over there and play. It was so easy, and it was so much. It was just so much fun, and the way they love music over there is so cool. Not that people don't hear, but it's just different. There is a different vibe in the way they get into it. So I was blessed enough to do that. So to answer the question, music in my entire family. Well, my cousin, he was also a musician. He moved to Nashville. He just moved back. He lived there 30 years and toured with some bigger artist, and his bass, drums. I mean, he's a very talented musician. And we've always stayed in contact and stuff. And me making the record, it kind of morphed into he was moving back. I was in Nashville doing that record, and it just kind of led to where we're at now. And my brother and I don't play anymore. He's kind of retired.
Now, do you and your cousin have like the same brotherly love though, where you bicker about everything, but like you have to work together?
Yes, and again, he and my brother are almost the exact same age. They were born like 4 months apart. He was almost like the third brother in the family. We all grew up together really tight. So we have that dynamic. Maybe not. We don't fight as much as me and my older brother, but give it another year or two of playing together, and we might not speak.
Oh man. Well, getting to know you has just been a blast. And I just learned your dad was friends with Roy Orbison. I
Well,
am falling over myself.
awesome, because man, he was iconic. Doesn't even begin to explain how wonderful Roy was.
Well, we're definitely gonna have to have Kerry Freeman back because I feel like there's gonna be more to talk about in the future. But right now, I do want everybody, please go download, stream, not just the brand new single, Funny How That Works, but also his entire new album. You can find him anywhere, look up tour dates. And Kerry, just thank you so much for bringing all this new music and all this fun to Maverick.
I appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time. Time is an important thing, and you guys allowing me to come on here and not shut up is very appreciated. More than I could ever say. So I appreciate you guys.